Okay, so I am thrilled to be here this evening with Omar Burgan. Omar, thank you very much for joining us to chat about the upcoming NDP convention.
Thanks for having me, Peter.
Omar is a Canadian activist in the NDP, and you're working with a number of people to try to influence the NDP convention, which is coming up when? When's the date of the convention?
It's April 9th to 11th.
And I assume it's a virtual convention, so people aren't actually physically going to it.
Okay. Indeed, yeah, it's virtual.
Yeah. And it's not a leadership convention. I don't think the leader is up for grabs, or does he get voted on to stay on, or what happens there?
That's pretty much it. And again, I'm not. I haven't studied any, existing plans, but typically what happens at convention is there is a confidence vote for the leader.
Okay. So in this convention, there'll be a number of policy resolutions, and you are working with some other people to put forward a policy resolution on the Israel-Palestine question. Can you kind of summarize for us what that resolution is first, so we know what we're talking about?
For sure. So the resolution, we actually created a website to help us connect with other activists and people who'd like to endorse the resolution. So the website is palestineresolution2021.ca. And basically what it comes down to is it's not a rehaul of the current wording of their policy in their policy book, but we add two new concepts to their policy. The first one being ending all trade and economic cooperation with the illegal settlements. And the second one is suspending all arms and related materials, all arms sales with the state of Israel. And this is until such time as Palestinian rights are upheld. So those are basically the two asks, or the two concepts we hope to become policy for the party.
Now, I assume you're trying to get other people to sign on to. What success are you having, and what resistance are you facing?
For the most part, thus far, the process has been, what happens is that riding associations submit some resolutions to convention. And, we have, from the outset, we're a group of individuals, activists either in the labor movement or in the NDP, who are either Palestinian or Jewish. And we work together and with other groups to submit it to riding associations. And I would say by and large, it was almost every place that we managed to get it out to across the country. In total, 33 riding associations did endorse it and are submitting it to convention. But by and large, there was virtually no resistance. Every once in a while, someone, had a question about whether this word was intended to imply this or that. But for the most part, I would say it was near unanimous that people who read this say, I see these as incredibly, justifiable policies, and almost surprised that we don't already do this. So I would say that there's quite a good amount of support.
You said you had, I think you said 33 riding associations have endorsed it or approved it. Now, my recollection is that last time out, was it 2 years ago? You also had a resolution that had quite a few riding associations that endorsed it. But how many riding associations are there altogether? Like how big is 33 out of the total whack?
Well, I think it's also a matter, it's not huge compared to the total, because in Canada there's 338 ridings, so every party
per riding, of course, yeah, I should know that. Yeah.
Across the country, yeah. But effectively, not all ridings will submit to convention. Not all ridings will be fully kind of up to speed or organized enough. So, just to give you a sense, is that I do know of some resolutions that were adopted at convention that had only been submitted by a single riding, because it just was a good idea, and they communicated with MPs and got good support, and it was just a very easy thing to adopt. So effectively, it's not a matter of, this just demonstrates that we were able to reach a lot of people, and it was across the country, basically from BC to Newfoundland. We got ridings who were very supportive.
Right. Now, the last time I seem to remember, correct me if I was maybe a sore point, that there was a bit of cross-threading between your attempt to get the resolution passed and some elements of the labor movement. I remember, what efforts have you made to bring the labor movement on board this time?
Well, we are talking to. We had a couple district labor councils submitted as well, adopted and submitted. They don't typically submit as often as riding associations, but we do have a lot of contacts within the labor movement in order to to garner support for this. And I think it's worth noting that the two recommendations, or the two policies that we're trying to put forth, are the recommendations of the Canadian Labor Congress, also known as the CLC. And the CLC is often called the House of Labor in Canada, because it's the regroupment of labor organizations, and most unions are members of the CLC. So we think it's significant that the CLC is recommending that we do these things. And they're not the only ones either. I mean, Amnesty International has recommended both a ban on settlement products and an arms embargo. Oxfam recommends ending trade with settlements, and some countries have begun to follow suit. So it's not unheard of, but there's definitely, a push within labor to have more progressive trade policies in this context.
And do you have any sense of what the NDP leadership position is? Are they going to be welcoming if they come on, Omar, come on in and talk to us? Or are they going to rather keep with the margins? What do you think the disposition of the leadership is?
Well, I think, there's so many people who are definitely willing to talk to us. And, I think there's definitely, when we talk to people, they're happy to hear this. And often they do support kind of the principle of what we're trying to do. And I guess it just remains to be seen. These things kind of through a lot of, talking and meeting with people. I think what's fundamental for them to kind of see is that there's really, an extensive amount of support for these kinds of policies. And I think even within Canadian society as a whole, when polls are conducted, they do see the situation, the status quo is unfair, and they do wish the government of Canada was, doing better at this. And often they do find that there's support amongst the general population for ideas like sanctions. So, I mean, it remains to be seen. There is definitely a lot of support within labor, within, party activists and party members. And hopefully there will be a democratic process where, the leadership will look onto this and support this as well.
Right. I think I saw somewhere that amongst your endorsers is Independent Jewish Voices Canada. What about the more liberal Zionist Jewish organizations, Canadian Friends of Peace Now, a New Israel Fund, even JSpace? They generally are quite opposed to the occupation. I would have thought that perhaps there's an opportunity to dialogue with them on this. Have you approached them, and what's their attitude? Do you know?
Thus far, we haven't approached them. I think, to some extent, there is actually, I mean, Peace Now officially does support boycotting settlements completely, and they use the word boycott. But the Canadian version, or the Canadian Friends of Peace Now, they don't seem to adopt all the policies of Peace Now, even though they are the Canadian Friends of Peace Now. Similarly,
Canadian independence.
I suppose so, but it is an interesting kind of divide there. I would imagine, that basically it's widely recognized, across the entire world, that settlements are a very kind of violent and racist enterprise. And I know that liberal Zionist organizations would often, are also opposed to settlements. But it remains to be seen whether they would come out and support actually doing something about it, as opposed to just writing firmly worded letters.
Right. Okay. So the next step, you are making an appeal to people to, I presume, if they're members of the NDP, you want them to pick this up and take it up with their riding association. I assume that's the way it'd be going forward. Is that right? And that's what I would do if I were you.
Yeah, well, actually, it was a very short kind of, submitting it to all the riding associations is done. That was completed, and riding associations have submitted to the various ridings.
Is that already, that window for submitting is already passed now? Is that right?
Correct.
Yes.
So, and what is of most importance now is that members who are attending convention as delegates, that they attend prioritization process for this, and ask for a vote, be it that this make it to the floor, essentially. So there's a lot of, hundreds and hundreds of resolutions get submitted, and there's a process by which they decide which ones go to the floor for like a general assembly vote. We think it's fundamental that it gets to the floor, because we're very confident that people will vote in favor of this.
Right.
But it is a question of whether this makes it to the floor at all. And so I think it's important that if people are attending this virtually, that they come out and support the resolution, and that they can also sign up on the website to indicate that they plan to do so.
And are they allowed to send the resolution to their friends and neighbors as well?
If they're this organizing is happening within the NDP, but I think it's kind of important to just highlight, I participate, I'm active within the NDP, because my politics tend to be, our left-wing politics, or social democratic politics, and it's what I believe in. But fundamentally, we think that these kind of the core principles of the resolution, it's the kind of things, like if you're involved in your union, in your university, in your community organization, these are the kind of things that we should be pushing for collectively, that our federal politicians who vote for these trade deals, despite the pleas of Amnesty International, and despite the pleas of the UN Special Rapporteur, to not basically encourage and reward war crimes. So this kind of activism, I think anyone anywhere should be involved in encouraging our elected leaders to do better, because I do think that fundamentally Canada has not played a very positive role. If anything, they've been complicit in some of the things that most people agree is really inhumane and unjust. So I think it's something that we need to be pushing for collectively in any sphere.
I will put the link to your website in my post, Omar. Is there a place there where people can contact you, or the people involved if they want to? Is there some?
Absolutely. Yeah, just fill out this. Yeah, fill out the sign. There's a sign up sheet, and you can put in the comments if you wish to be contacted, or what kind of help you can provide.
Well, good luck to you. I hope you're successful in moving this forward, and we'll see what happens. Well, we'll know right away, right? It'll be decided at the convention itself, right?
Typically, yes. That is happens. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, Omar Burgan, with that, thank you very much for spending a few minutes with us, and I look forward to the next time we get an opportunity to chat.
Thanks, Peter.